Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, great score this week. Pretty happy. Won all my three grand finals. Outstanding. From where I've come from, been pretty good. Ranked just under 5,000 for the round and finished in the top 6,000 for the year, which is great considering I started off 70,000th, which is a phenomenal improvement. Really finished strong. Let's go through my team this week. I was going to say, Riley O'Brien, I was going to say thank you, mate, because you're Norm Smith medalist and you've won me the three grannies. So we start off with his teammate, Jordan Dawson. Disappointing. I think his worst game, I think, for the season. One of his lowest scores, pretty sure, for the season. 74, which is pretty poor. Didn't cost me. A lot of people have Dawson now. So it's not as a big deal, but look, I brought him in at the right time when he was cheap. And it's been a good pickup for me when I brought him in. Probably my best trade in this season, which is handy. Sicily 134. Bulldogs dominated. Should have won by over 10 goals. Really, they just missed a lot of shots, and it just a total mess. But they still won, but wasn't really the easy cruisy win like they were expecting. Yeah, look, 134 was a good job from Sicily. He's outscored Short, but I should have got rid of Cresp instead of Short. Would have been like another 50 points ahead and would have probably brought me in the top 5,500. But look, we'll take the gain. Still got more points from that trade. And look, 134 is just good. Fortunately, I should have started him. I caught him in a trap, and I thought, is he really gonna? He's coming back from an injury, and I thought, it's gonna take him a while to get going. And he killed me early on. He did have a bit of a patch where he wasn't performing quite as well. I ended up getting him from an alright price, Sicily, but look, yeah, it's killed me this season not starting with him because a lot of people did, and it's just hurt me all season. Particularly at the start, towards the end, not quite as much. I did get him for the last couple of rounds, just for get rid of Short, which probably ended up being was a wrong option. Should have got rid of Cresp. Maybe even Dale because he performed poorly, but I think Cresp was the one to get rid of. And Doherty, yeah, he's finished off last couple of weeks strongly. Unfortunately, Carlton, I don't know how they lost today's game. They should have won. That's one of the biggest chokes I've seen this season. Kicked six behind in the last quarter. You kicked at least one of them, or two of them at least, in your home, really. Yeah, I don't know what's just from 8-2, disappointing finish from Carlton. I mean, they did have a tougher run in the second half of the season, so I was expecting a bit of a drop off, but the game against Adelaide, they were expected to win that, and they lost that, and they were in a winning position against Melbourne, they lost. But we're not going to talk here about Carlton. Just going to talk about my team. Tom Stewart, 106, a little bit better, but he's still probably covering for that injury. And look, was it worth holding him? Probably not in the end. It's been disappointing, to be honest, other than that 120, I believe, when he came back. Did he score 120? It might have been 1 week, and then he scored terrible the next week, and then he scored average after that. I don't know if it was worth holding on to him, to be honest. And I think for the trades, maybe had that extra trade up my sleeve to do the Sicily move at the end just to gain an advantage. Maybe it's a tough one because there's just always some player that just goes out of my side all year, and it just held me back a bit. Uh, Bailey Dale, 83, disappointing. He's let me down, to be honest, since bringing him in. He's performed not as quite as good as what I thought he would. It's just been frustrating. I think he maybe had one or two good scores, but it ended up being probably a poor move. Was probably better off as a Sinclair. I don't think I could afford him at the time. Probably not. I don't think that's why I got Dale. It's been a poor move. Not too sure who would have been the best from there. Maybe a Redmond would have been okay. Had a few good weeks, but had also had a few poor weeks. Not too sure. I think next year, I think all my defenders just let me down this year. Defense, particularly not starting with Hewitt first round and not having Sicily kill me already. I was already behind like 150 points. From your average score, from your good score, and it just put me behind the majority of the season. And I would have been in a better position where I am now, which is kind of remarkable since I'm in the top 6,000. Which I don't know how I pulled that off, but yeah, 83 is disappointing. Cresp, 61, even worse. And look, I probably should have traded him out, like I said, with Short instead of Short. Short ended up getting a couple of hundreds in the end, which last couple of weeks, which is sort of annoyed me, but Sicily still outscored him, so I still got points on that trade, which is good. But Cresp would have been miles ahead and got rid of him. Or more points ahead on other people. So look, 61's not good enough. He's probably not going to be in my side next season. We're going to have to figure out with my defence, because I generally get that wrong. This season's just cost me greatly. Well, 51's alright for a backup. Not as good as previous weeks, but yeah, and obviously Ulan didn't play. Rory Laird, 133. And the captain has just been a bit of a fuck up this week. Got the captain wrong, but still won my grannies. 'Cause look, if I had Laird, I was thinking, Oliver, 118, it's not good enough for a captain score. You think Miller, he's going to go right off against North Melbourne. You think Gold Coast is going to win easily, which they did. But it was more of an even contribution with the Gold Coast this match. I think Swallow stole the show with him scoring over 140. The rest was just in an even spread, which is what you want from a team. But look, 104, yeah, I mean, it was. You got to take your chances. You got to make predictions. And it was more he expected to do well. You expect him to go bananas. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Like with a lot of premiums, as you can see, the midfielders here are disappointing. To be honest, they had two players score, but over 100. Only three of them only barely just. And end up Cripps actually ends up scoring the last few weeks. McRae as well been disappointing. Mules 93 disappointing. A lot of people own Mules now. A lot of the top players do, but still disappointing. And if you had Walsh out too, you'd be annoyed, which is probably another reason why I outscored a lot of people this week, is because I didn't have Walsh, which is a bit unlucky. But if you had Owens as backup, it's not a big deal as much. Still frustrating having a rookie or rookie type player on field. That's just bad luck. It's a bit unfortunate for those that had Walsh. I was a bit sceptical about bringing him in anyway with the injuries, and just he wasn't never a player I would have brought him in. I mean, Brayshaw wasn't the best either, but at least he wasn't injured. I didn't have to deal with that antics with Walsh. Like, he might be a good selection next year, Brayshaw, though I think having Brody in is a bit of a hindrance to his scoring potential. As for Mills, look, I don't know. He's a bit of a roller coaster at this peak. He can score 200 but get a 60 or a 70 or maybe an 80 type score. So it's just one of those things. He needs to improve his consistency to match it with the Laird or Oliver, I reckon. Will I pick him next year? I'm not too sure. Not for starting, depending how low he drops. McRae, yeah, he's had a poor second half. Just was one of the best players after the first 5-6 rounds, but he's just dropped off late. And he's ended up only being 536, which I think he was almost at 700 at one point, which is saying a lot. So yeah, back up, all right, 61 for Owens, and Rioli 47's okay, not the best. And Clark, he's actually dropped in 60k. So he's been a bit of a medi sub, which it's kind of, I don't know what West Coast are doing, but a few of their players might retire, and he probably has to keep his spot. Might become might be their best 22s. What I'm trying to say. In a few years' time, or the next couple of years, if Yo and that start Shuey and a few of those other players, start falling off a bit, which they sort of already have. Now back to the rucks. We got here Darcy 83. He's disappointing. He was 60 at half time and just dropped off, which sort of stuffed up my score a bit for this round. He was looking to get like 120 and would have been even in a better position where I am now, which would have been great. To crack under that in the top 1,000, top 500 players, but not to be. And Rory O'Brien, well, he's where I am for this round, and there's a reason why I won the 3 grannies. He gets the Norm Smith medal. outstanding. Finished strong with your best game of the year, O'Brien. 160, outstanding score in a side that got beaten by 10 goals is phenomenal. And after a few disappointing weeks, he's just gone, fuck gone, fuck wits. I, I outscore him this week by a mile, and that's what he's done. And he's basically gave me a huge advantage over everyone this week. And look, if you had O'Brien, it's a huge advantage for the grannies. So look, was it worth, bringing him in? I'm not too sure in the end. The rucks have been frustrating because they've been inconsistent. They perform well one week and they perform disappointing the next. I think if you started with Wits, it still was the better option. But he was inconsistent himself. He has a few good weeks and he dropped off. But it's tough for the rucks this season. Next season, it looks like Ryder's retired. So Marshall may be option, but even him is a bit inconsistent. But I will consider it for next year. Bonson Pelly, 115. Your standard score. I thought he might score. I think he got scaled down a bit because he was doing pretty well at one point. He dropped off in the last quarter. Dunkley 127. Look, okay score from Dunkley. Not too bad. Heaney 114. Finished the last month strong, just like Sydney. Seems like when Sydney performs poorly, Heaney performs poorly. Sydney performs well. Heaney performs well. I've noticed that in the last month or two. Bringing him in wasn't such a bad decision after a couple poor weeks once I'm trading him in. But he's performed well and just there's a reason why I finished strong too. Another reason why. Too, because not everyone has Heaney. A lot of people do, so it's not a huge advantage. Parker, 94, disappointing. It's been a bit of a meh selection. I think a lot of people brought him in, but wasn't. He hasn't gone the big mega scores after that 1 week where he scored like was it 140, 150. Hasn't really gone extreme. It's kind of difficult with Sydney where you got a lot of other players, to compete with. I guess that's the thing with Sydney. They got a lot of good players, which is the reason why where they're at. Although they weren't particularly that good today. The way they finished, they did get the last goal of the game, but they only just hold on. For a side that's trying to get the 10-goal win, it's going to be tough though playing against St Kilda. I know at Marvel, St Kilda aren't the best, but at Marvel they're a decent side. Will Brady finished strong with 133, which is great for him and probably one of the Supercoach picks of the year, really. Like, who would have expected this? An average of 102, is competing, wasn't too far off of outscoring Dunkley for the year. Look, only 6 points off with average. Had to end up having a high average in Heaney, who would have thought? Particularly after the first couple of rounds of Heaney, but Heaney scores. But look, we'll take it. 133 is just phenomenal. 102 for English. Was this a good trading? I don't know, to be honest. Was there a better forward for the last few rounds? Maybe Tom Lynch, maybe. That's a bit of a roller coaster pick, though. I think he would have been mid-season when he went on his run after the West Coast game. Would have been a good pickup. I think before the West Coast game, and if there was a period where he was like 300k, then he went up to 500k. Tom Lynch, but yeah, not English 102, made 100, but didn't go the 130 or 120, which I was hoping for because he was playing against Max Lynch, which is he's a pretty new ruckman. Oh, but look, he'll still keep recovering from an injury, English, so he'll probably be all right next year. Might be either him or Marshall, probably on my side. You could go with Grundy, but he's coming back from an injury, and he hasn't been quite himself the last couple of years. Not too sure with him going forward. And Curtis, unfortunately, he didn't play due to COVID, I believe. I didn't need him in the end, but I was just hoping for that, that extra security just in case, one of these players gets injured or a laid out or some COVID issue, like a laid out like Walsh was, but didn't need to worry about that this round, which is good. Full line mostly performed alright, actually. Everyone scored above 100 except Parker, and he only just missed out, which was good. Ruckman was excellent with O'Brien, but Darcy, it's a bit of a roller coaster with Darcy. Would have been good if he got over 100. In terms of midfield, yeah, disappointing, I should say, with Mills, McRae, all scoring under 100. But I think its defence was let down this round. But a Sinclair instead of a Cresp. Been laughing. And I guess that's been the biggest problem all season. The last round just sums up where my team's at, really. And we're strong and outperformed a lot of people. And it's just, defence just hasn't been all good all year. And it's just been a stuff around with everything. Look, I've had a few good trade-ins, bringing Dawson at the right time. Doherty, bring him in. He did have a few couple poor weeks, but I brought him towards the end of the season, which is a bit too late, unfortunately. Performed well for the last couple of rounds, but yeah, not good enough. So look, defence have to work on that next season. I think going in, my starts are just not good enough. It just we always start off slow, and as you can see here, the history for this season. Just wait for it to load. And as we can see, it'll rank 73,000 round one, which is just shocking. And made a few good trade-ins, which helped me claw all the way back down to 10,000 at one point. I was thinking, oh man, I might be able to do a miracle here. But as you can see here, even though I made trades, I still end up falling down to 23,000 again in the middle of the season. So there's a bit of a rough patch here too. So I've got round ranking of 1,060, which is great. Went from 70,000 to 10,000, which is phenomenal. But then I went back a bit for a couple of rounds, and I still made a lot of trades too. So disappointing. I think because a lot of players that I didn't have that a few other people have, like Sicily or Sinclair and Doherty, which I didn't have at the time, and Adele, and end up having like Ridley, I think Short, and I think Short was playing okay with a Crest, but just a few little things there that didn't go my way, I think, at the start. And I went back down to 10,000 again, and a few good weeks in the middle. I think the buys happened. I think the second buy was a tough one for me. 54,000 was actually okay. I was expected to do worse for that round. That could have been a disaster, an even bigger disaster. Could have been worse than round one. Because that was my worst round, I believe, which, yeah, it was, which is good. In the end, you finish off with your highest overall ranking, and you start off with your lowest, which is what you want. And end up, finishing strong here after the buys. Got down to 7,800 and then a few poor weeks, which sort of stopped me from getting the top 5,000 in the end. And a few another good weeks, slowly crawling up, ever so slowly. Then I ended up having a poor week, which sort of stuffed me up again into the 5,000 at all, top 5,000. But then finished strong to finish top 6,000, which is my highest ranking of the season, in my best overall finish. And overall, a decent season. After having a terrible start and having a great first couple months after that. We're coming back, trying to make up your grounds, and a few poor decisions. Silly, boneheaded decisions. I think I had to deal with Prue's situation when he stopped playing. It sort of stuffed up my side as well. Just with the whole ruck situation too, just threw out a lot of things. But I guess that's like with everyone too. And look, I'm happy with the ranking, to be honest, from where I come from, where I was at the start of the season. Having 150, giving everyone a 150 point head start was just not good enough. But I've just come along well, and got myself a decent ranking, which could have been an absolute lot worse season for me. I think defense, like I said before, just killed me, and it really would stop me from getting in the really good rankings of like the top 3,000, the top 2,000, and even trying to get those prizes. I think, do you get prizes to finish in a top 1,000 with the what's it called again? The socks, but the socks and a few KFC voucher too. Wasn't fair way off of that, but to get near 5,000, which is pretty good for where I was. I think starting Ward 2 should have brought Nation 2, which been a huge advantage early in the season. Just a few little things like that, just to gain an advantage over other people. Yeah, but that's it. I'm pretty happy with the season, considering how it started. Just need to get those starts better, and I should be fine, hopefully. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.